Good afternoon, everyone. Today, we are from group number six, I think. So we're going to present about the comparative analysis of policy in various countries in terms of its rationality, priorities, feasibility, and estimates across preschool education, special education, vocational training, and also teachers' professionalism. So today, my name is Hudben Hanapi, and on my left side is Miss Malisa.
Yes, Miss Marisa.
My name is Khairuddin.
Okay, so let us start first with today we are going to discuss the education policies for three countries, whereby and we also will compare it with Malaysia. We'll talk about education policy in Finland, in Indonesia, and also in Singapore. And at the end of each of our topic, we will also talk about the education policy in Malaysia, so that we can compare the education in Malaysia with the three countries that we've mentioned. So let us start with the maybe we should give the background of
Yes,
of
exactly.
the,
I think
For each country.
for each country education system.
Yep.
for the Finnish education system consists of early childhood education and care, pre-primary education, primary and lower secondary education, which is basic education, general upper secondary education, vocational education, higher education, and adult education. Compulsory education applies to all 6 until 18 years old. It includes pre-primary, primary, lower secondary, and upper secondary education. After 9 years basic education, there is general upper secondary or vocational upper secondary education and training. General upper secondary lead to matriculation examination and vocational to vocational qualification. Basically, that's how Finland's education system are.
Okay, so for Indonesia, I think it's quite similar with Malaysia, where we start with early childhood education, kindergarten and everything. Then we go to the primary educations, what they call as SD, Sekolah Dasar. And then we go to the junior secondary education, SMP, they call it SMP. And then next level would be senior secondary education, what they call as SMA or SMK. And then after that, there will be choose whether they want to further their study to the higher education university, traditional what we call choice for all Malaysians. And then they have another choice what we call vocational training, so it's kind of like polytechnics and community college. So that's for Indonesia.
For Singapore education system, basically Singapore follow the same education system like Malaysia. I mean, starting from preschool and then went through the primary education for 6 years. And then after they took the PSLE, primary school leaving examination, they will go to the secondary school for secondary education. And after they finish their secondary education, they can choose either to do A-level qualification or go to technical by taking a diploma program under the Institute of Technical Education and Certificate, or they go to polytechnic to get their diploma, and lastly they can go for the bachelor degree and masters and PhD and so on.
Although you said that it's quite similar with Malaysia, the PISA ranking is more higher than Malaysia, right? Which is currently at first.
Yes, first.
First
For
in world.
2022.
First
Yep.
in the world, yeah. For reading, mathematics, and science, if I'm
Science,
not
yeah.
mistaken. So I think Singapore has a high PISA ranking due to due to the commitment not just from the students but also from their parents and teachers.
Government.
And also the support from their government, because from what I know is that the PSLE, the primary school leaving examinations, it was quite stressful for the students basically.
Yeah.
But they did perform well due to the support and also I think pressure also from the parents
Expectation,
and the school.
I think,
Yeah, because it's because of the expectation for them to excel in their future, not just in studies but also when they get out from studies. It's for their when they go for employment.
Before we jump to the conclusion, better we discuss first based on the topics, right?
Yeah, okay. So that is I think that is the introduction for each country, the education level for each country. So maybe we can go to the topic that we would want to discuss.
Maybe the first. We already talk about the education system for each country: Finland, Singapore, and Indonesia. So on our first topic, we will go for the rationalities and priorities of each education system. So my question is for each of you: what are each country's primary goals for preschool education?
In Finland, the priority is ensuring equality and social emotional development, focusing on children readiness for lifelong learning. Preschool education is free and 90% of children attend the school based on OECD 2021. In Finland also, they emphasize a play-based approach to build social skill and foster curiosity without academic pressure.
Okay, for in Indonesia, so access to preschool is still growing, with the government prioritizing reaching rural communities and making preschool affordable. So this push is very essential, given that only 50% of the Indonesian children attend preschool based on the UNICEF report on 2021. Their emphasis is on affordability and access before quality, as economic diversity is a major factor. So how about in Singapore, Mr. Hood?
In Singapore itself, the priorities affordability and high quality is given through the structured curricula. The government regulates standards and provides subsidies, making preschool accessible to around 96% of eligible children, which means only 4% doesn't get the access, but 96% is almost 100%, and that's quite high. Besides that, the country also stresses bilingualism, which is their main national language is Malay language, but their communication language is in English, and also by preparing to prepare students for its global engagement.
Well, actually, interesting. Based on the statistic, you can see that Indonesia is currently way behind Finland and Singapore, which, as both of you told, that 98 and 96%.
I think because Indonesia has a very big population.
Yeah, that one of the major factors.
From Sumatra, Java Island up to until Papua New Guinea there. So I think, and they have a lot of islands. So I think not all places in the islands have schools.
Yeah.
So some children are left behind from getting the basic necessary education.
That's lead to the statistic. Only 50% of them are going to the school, primary school. We call kindergarten school. Sorry, kindergarten school. Yeah. Okay.
Next, we would like to ask on the feasibility and estimation of the education system. How in terms of its education future goals, how feasible are these goals, and what are the long-term estimations for Finland?
Finland model is feasible due to strong government funding and small population size, which allow for equitable access. Studies show Finnish at Finland preschooler who receive early social emotional support are more resilient and have improved academic outcomes later on.
Okay, as Mr. Hood mentioned before, so for Indonesia, scalability is challenging due to geographic diversity. So to improve feasibility, we rely on public private partnership. So by 2030, the government aims to reach an additional 30% of preschool age children through quality access regions remains a hurdle.
In Singapore, the feasibility is high due to efficient governance and funding. By ensuring regulated, high quality access, it's estimated that early preschool intervention will boost national literacy rates and career readiness in the future.
For Indonesia, they are quite lag behind. Even they at 30%, it's still 80% from the students that will go into the kindergarten.
Each of us already spoke about the rationalities, priorities, and feasibilities of education system for each of the countries. So, I mean, how can we compare each of these countries to Malaysian education system or policies in terms of its feasibility, rationality, and also priorities?
For Malaysia, the government has made effort to expand early childhood education access, but disparities remain between urban and rural areas. Preschool education in Malaysia emphasise foundational literacy, numeracy, and social skill with effort to keep it affordable through public and private option. But as we know, Malaysian schooler is not funding well, right?
Yeah, I think that backs to Malaysia and Indonesia. We share similar challenges in terms of access, especially in rural areas. However, Indonesia participation rates are lower than in Malaysia's, and the focus is more on expanding access rather than achieving high quality consistency. So we are trying to expanding access to the students from the rural area rather than achieving high quality consistency. So how about Singapore, Mr. Hood? Is it similar to Malaysia or is it a big different?
In Singapore, I mean, Singapore offers both public and private preschool, but it has a higher standard of regulation and greater government subsidies. Preschool in Singapore also emphasizes bilingualism, which differs from Malaysia's primary school. Primary focus of trilingual proficiency, which is in Malay, English, or Mandarin or Tamil.
For this topic, I think Finland is at another level because Finland offer universal free preschool with strong emphasis on play-based learning and social emotional development. Unlike Malaysia, Finnish preschool education is not academically driven. Rather, it focuses on preparing children for life with very high participation rates, which mean Malaysian and Indonesian and Singaporean, maybe the whole Asian, more to exam oriented. But in Finland, they are focusing on develop their student, develop their skills, emotional, and more focusing on development.
You mentioned that Finland offers a free education. I mean, the free education, is it from kindergarten up until tertiary education?
As I read all the articles, from basic education system, which is kindergarten, until the upper education system, upper level education system, which is at level of universities, they are free. Especially for Europe country, they are free.
Oh, meaning that it's not only for Finland citizen, but
yes,
it's
open to
all European, European
citizen.
Okay. Interesting.
But I think they can afford the free educations because people working in Finland, they pay, I think, higher taxes. So
yes.
So that's what contribute to the free education. Besides the policy that have been made by Finland.
When you mentioned about the tax rate, I have researched a little bit about the tax rate. For Finland, the average tax rate can reach until 36%. But at Malaysia, it's maybe 1% until maximum 30% only. And if we compare with the currency, it must give a big difference within Finland and Malaysia.
Yeah, because I think in Malaysia, I mean, I mean, all the public schools, I mean, that is governed by the Ministry of Education. I mean, they do get funding from the government, from the budget every year, but I think it's not enough to cover. I mean, to at least to provide a good facilities for the students and teachers. But I think for the Chinese school, I think the Chinese school, especially the SJKC, I think they got alumni who give them a lot of money,
Funds, yeah.
and funding, and basically you can see. I mean, if you went to their school, they have like a very big halls, and I think their facility is very well maintained.
They have supportive alumni.
Yeah, so very supportive alumni. Okay, let's talk about special education policies. What do you think are the main goals and priorities for Finland in special education, basically?
Finland has a highly inclusive education model aiming to integrate children with special need into mainstream classes whenever possible. 18% of children with special needs are supported within standard classroom. This is based on Finnish National Agency for Education 2021. Prioritizing early intervention, which means all these special student will be placed at the normal class with a normal student.
They start at the early
Yes.
age. Yeah. Okay. So while for Indonesia approach is evolving, which inclusion is a goal, practical challenges such as limited trained staff and funding in rural areas mean children often lack of adequate resources. Okay, so only 20% of the children with disabilities attend school based on UNESCO report in 2021, showing that the need for policy and infrastructure improvements. And so we are still lacking on the we call limited trained staff and also funding. The same problem in the rural area. So how about Singapore, Mr. Hud?
Singapore uses a mixed model where children with mild needs attend mainstream school with additional support, while specialized school cater to those with higher needs. This approach helps balance inclusivity and individual needs, as the government invests heavily in the teachers' training and also resources. Okay, Ms. Melissa, how feasible are these special education policies, and what outcomes are projected from it?
Okay, for Indonesia, I think the problem is still the same. Feasibility is challenging due to the limited resources. So the government aims to double its budget for special education by 2025, though it will be require public and private funding to be sustainable. So Indonesian can't rely only on the government funding. So they need to have public and private funding also to be to the policy to be sustainable.
It's quite different with Finland because Finland feasibility is high due to strong teacher training programs, and teacher receive training in special education technique which foster a supportive environment. Long-term studies suggest that inclusive education in early years lead to better social integration.
Meanwhile, in Singapore, its feasibility is higher given its strong funding model. The government plans to increase special education funding by 15% annually, predicting improved long-term academic outcomes and social integration. This is based on the report from the Singapore Ministry of Education in 2021.
So it's back to our early discussion. It all depends on the funding.
Yes, funding not just for the school, but I think the resources in terms of the manpower to get the teachers who are
trained
in this who are trained or graduated in the special education field or background.
Yeah, to help the schools.
Those are one or two of the challenges in wanting to implement the special education.
I think that's the main factor of the Indonesia lacking in their policy for them to go forward.
I think in terms of visibility of special education, I think nowadays most parents, when they find out something, not something wrong with their children, it's just that nowadays I think parents are more aware about this special education classes
Yes,
and
yes, yes.
policies compared to like 10 or 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I think you are not to say that people, parents, last time is not aware about the education, but they has limited resources, limited income to give them extra education,
and
extra
also
class to
I
their
think limited information as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Because as we all know, special kids they need a lot of funding. They need a lot of. I mean,
Correct.
it needs a lot
Come
of
with
funding.
higher cost.
Higher cost needs lots of sacrifice. Even I think some parents they send their kids to.
And I think parents nowadays are more accepting of the special needs of their
Special
children.
needs children.
Yeah, compared to before, compared to
Accepting and understand.
yeah, they are more accepting of the children condition, so they send the student to the school.
So okay, how can we compare? I mean, the special educations for Finland, Indonesia, and also Singapore compared to
Malaysia.
Malaysia.
For Malaysia, I think it has an inclusive education policy, though practical implementation varies. While mainstream schools support students with mild disability, there are still gaps in resources, trained teachers, and infrastructure for more severe cases. Special education schools exist but face challenges in quality and capacity. It's different with Finland. It takes an inclusive approach, integrating most children with special needs into mainstream classes with strong support system. As I mentioned before, they are mingle their student with their special needs student with the normal students, and special education teachers are well trained and resources are extensive, ensuring a high level of individualized care.
So there is something different about Finland, right? As you mentioned just now, they mix the
Students.
the special kid students with the normal students. Whereas in Malaysia, I think they tend to, especially
Separate.
they tend to separate, especially for those who has a very hardcore problem. But I think, but a mild problem and a lower problem, I think they can join the mainstream. But I think there's something for Finland. I think. How about Indonesia?
Okay. Again, Malaysia and Indonesia faces similar challenges. So, in a special education, with a lack of trained staff and resources in rural areas, there is strong push to improve inclusivity, but the practical implementation is hidden by the funding and training limitations. So, the problems back to the funding and also training limitations. So, Singapore, Mr. Hood.
Singapore combines inclusive and specialized approaches, offering tailored support for students in mainstream school and separate facilities for more severe disabilities. This dual track system is both well funded and organized, and set it apart from Malaysia's more limited resources. I think from all the feedbacks, opinions that we've got from our panels, I think funding, the lack of funding is one of the problem. To implement the special education,
Especially for Malaysia and
especially
Indonesia.
for Malaysia and Indonesia.
Yeah.
But I think for Finland and Singapore, I think they are basically on the right track.
Yeah.
I think. right track. Due to the funding and also, I think the policy itself.
Yeah. It's all about funding. Once you have funding, you have the resources and you have the trained staff, and then you can go with the
And I think they also need a good expert on how the special education should be implemented, should be approached. Okay, we already discussed the topic on the
early childhood.
preschool education,
preschool
and also the special education.
Yeah.
So now we're moving to vocational training. Okay, how does each country view the role of its for the vocational education or training?
Okay, so for Indonesia, vocational training is critical to the reducing youth's unemployment. However, the lack of industry alignment means programs sometimes miss the mark. So the government goal is to increase industry-aligned vocational education by 20% by 2030. That is the government's aim, but it's all about to increase the students to join vocational training.
It's different with Finland. Vocational training is seen as an equal alternative to academic path. Finland aim to prepare students for the workforce, and 48% of secondary students choose vocational tracks. These programs are designed in collaboration with industry to meet labor demands.
So meaning that almost half of the
Yes,
secondary
almost half of the
students
student.
they choose for
vocational
vocational
training.
education training, while the other half
It's more-
going for the traditional academic
Yeah,
education.
maybe want to be a scientist and engineer, something like that.
Okay, Mr. Hood, for Singapore, how is it?
Singapore, I think like Finland also, it views its vocational training as essential, very essential. The Institute of Technical Education (ITE) is highly respected, and its vocational pathway are aligned with industry needs, ensuring 85% employment rates for graduates. This is according to World Bank Report 2022.
So most of the Finland and Singapore, I think students graduate are choosing vocational training.
Yeah, yes, I think so. I think because I think the vocational training in Singapore and Finland, they are able to provide
Work security, is it the right
work
terms?
security, employment,
Yeah.
and that's why it becomes an attractive avenue for students who doesn't want to go through the traditional academic way. They have another alternative that is much more or less is equivalent to those who went to the universities. So I think in Finland and Singapore, I mean, vocational training is attractive to its citizens, for them to actually opt for the vocational training based on the rates that we have mentioned just now. So I think we also need to compare it to Malaysia.
For Malaysia, it's emphasized technical and vocational education and training TVET as an alternative to academic pathway, with program aimed at preparing students for the labour market. However, vocational training programs still struggle with public perception and consistent alignment with industry needs.
Why do you think so? Is it because of the salary that, I mean, if you take TVET, is it because of the salary that the employee going to offer, or is it because of the reputation of TVET in terms of the?
I believe the reputations because the salary, I think for those who choose to join vocational trainings with their skills nowadays, it is a very essential skills that the industry needs. So I think it's more on the reputations of the university or the college that offer vocational training. So I think it's more on reputation and perceptions from the parents.
Different with Finland. Finland vocational training is respected and viewed as an equal alternative to traditional academics. Finland vocational programs are closely linked to industry requirement, making them highly effective for job placement and, of course, good salary.
So for Indonesia, vocational training is critical in Indonesia to address high youth unemployment rates. So, however, alignment with industry needs is inconsistent, and there are strong focus on improving partnerships to make programs more relevant. So it's still something that the Indonesians still working on. They have to improve the partnership with the industry so that their graduate from the vocational training are well accepted by the industry. So Singapore, Mr. Hood.
Singapore vocational education is somehow integrated with the industry needs and is highly respected. The ITE, or Institute of Technical Education Singapore, provides specialized pathway aligned with market demands, contributing to high employment rates for graduates. This approach is more industry aligned than Malaysia's TVET, which is still developing its reputation and industry link.
Yeah, right. So I think Singapore and Finland still in the same
par.
par, same level, because in each of education level, but Indonesia and Malaysia are still improving.
Still, I think they are catching up.
Yeah, they are catching up.
I mean, even I think Malaysian TVET, I think they are trying to make the program more attractive. I mean, under the TVET banner, because I think previously, I mean, those who want to go to the vocational training, they will go for the certificates or sijil kemahiran.
Yep.
Kemahiran. So I think for Malaysian TVET, I think they need to change the perceptions lah, the terms from seeing it as a low paying jobs, low paying skills into something that actually, I mean, people can use their skills to make money. And also, I mean, besides attaching themselves to industries, I think those with skills actually should have a mindset whereby they should be an entrepreneur by themselves. Meaning that if they have the skills, they're already being trained. They can actually, like, for example, can open their own workshop or bakery.
Business,
so that they
open
can self-sustain instead of depending on the government or the industry to provide them the jobs based on whatever skill that they have. Lastly, we wanted to discuss about teacher professionalism. Okay, the question is, what are the priorities regarding teacher professionalism?
Okay, so for Indonesia, Indonesia focus on increasing teacher qualifications. So the certification program aims to standardize quality across the country. So true challenges remained, particularly in rural areas. The goal is to have 80% of the teachers certified by 2025. So that's the goal for Indonesia.
Different with teacher in Finland, highly valued and master degrees is required. This foster professionalism and autonomy, with teachers seen as expert. Finland policies show that well-trained teachers contribute to students' overall achievement and well-being. And based on videos that Dr. Kenny shared, most of the parents give 100% responsibility to teachers to educate their children at school, and they don't ever touch on what are the syllabus, on what are teachers doing at the school. So they
solely believe on the
believe
teachers
and respect the jobs.
Okay.
Meaning that, I mean, Finland, I mean, they trust their system.
Yeah.
In Singapore, the teacher professionalism is taken very seriously. Rigorous certifications and ongoing professional development ensure that teachers are well prepared, with strong incentives for continual improvement. Singapore performance-based evaluation help maintains its high teaching standards.
So they encourage the teachers to continuous improvement by further studies.
Yes, they encourage their teachers to go to further their studies, and also to go through some professional courses, certifications to improve their skills and teaching
and knowledge.
Knowledge. Based on the priorities or goals that have been said or mentioned just now, any thoughts on the feasibility and the future outlook of maybe Finland and Singapore teacher professionalism?
For Finland, feasibility is very high with a well-established government support system. And as I mentioned before, Finland teachers are well-trained, and this positively impacts student outcomes.
Okay, so for Indonesia, feasibility is mixed. But with public and international support, there is potential for growth. The target is to reduce regional quality disparities significantly by the end of the decade.
And in Singapore, the feasibility is high due to strong governmental support. The teaching profession is competitive, and high standards are expected to maintain Singapore's strong education ranking globally, especially in PISA.
Yep.
And then, we already talked about the teacher professionalism, its priorities and visibility. So, how do we compare? Teaching professionalism in Finland and Indonesia with Malaysia.
Okay, so Malaysia has made strides in raising teacher standard through certification and professional development programs. The disparity exists between urban and rural teacher quality. Teachers are required to have formal qualification and ongoing training is encouraged. Though the system still face challenges in ensuring consistent quality. Like Malaysia, so Indonesia is working to improve teacher qualification with certifications required for public school teachers. However, rural areas face shortage of qualified teachers and regional disparities are more pronounced than in Malaysia. So that is in Indonesia.
For Finland, as I mentioned twice, Finnish teachers are highly regarded professional, respected, and with a master degrees requirement for teaching position, teachers have significant autonomy in the classroom, which contrasts with Malaysia more centrally guided curriculum and standard.
I think the Singapore teachers undergo rigorous training and continuous professional developments. High standards, competitive incentives, and performance-based evaluation make teaching an attractive profession. In comparison, Malaysia is still working to make teaching a high-status profession through increased standards and benefits. We have discussed 4 topics just now on preschool education, on special education, on vocational training, and also teacher professionalism, which we base on its rationality and priorities, and also its feasibility and estimations. So what we can summarize from the topics that we've just discussed just now and presented, there are 4 key differences that we can mention here. First is on access and quality. Finland universal approach to free high quality preschool is more advanced than Malaysia's, while Singapore's government regulated model provides more consistent quality than Malaysia's mixed public-private preschool system. Secondly, on special education, Finland's fully inclusive system and Singapore's specialized and mainstream support are more advanced than Malaysia's current provisions, where inclusivity efforts are hindered by resource limitations. Third, vocational training. Singapore vocational programs are better aligned with industry needs compared to Malaysia's developing TVET programs. Finland, high regard for vocational training, also stand out. Fourth, teacher professionalism. Finland and Singapore treat teaching as a high status profession with rigorous training standards, while Malaysia is still enhancing its teachers development program to reach similar level. Therefore, Malaysia can learn from each country's strength, especially Finland inclusive practices, Singapore's industry-aligned vocational training, and both Finland's and Singapore high teacher professional standard. These insights could further shape Malaysia's own educational policies to achieve a more equitable and effective education system.
Yes. So I think the Malaysia and Indonesia will be good to follow Finland's and Singapore approaches on the education policy, so that we can go we call the same level as they are in terms of all the
Yes,
education
because I think
level.
we need to have a first class education like those countries, not just a first world developed country.
I think that catch my eyes are the factors that make Malaysia and Indonesia lag behind Finland and Indonesia in Finland and Singapore, which are the fundings.
Yeah. So the main factor is funding.
Yeah, the fundings. Yeah, the fundings and the, I would not say support, because support from government, because Malaysia's governments are giving the supports, but maybe not in terms of the funding.
Especially in Malaysia, we are tend to see the instability in making policies for our education system. Right. In inconsistency. Before this, we have exam. Currently, we don't have exam. Something like that.
Yeah.
So it's craft what happened to our children, our student.
I mean, the changings of the curriculum, the syllabus. I mean, constantly. I mean, it provides, I think, difficulties not just to the students but also to the teachers. I think,
yes.
In terms of their teaching method and maybe
Workload,
and also and how, I mean, when we wanted to implement one's policy, I think we should also invest it in the teachers, in their developments. I mean if we just change like that without investing in the teachers in terms of their skills and knowledge, at the end of the day they are not able to actually provide the good education to our Malaysian children.
Yeah, I agree.
So those are the things that need to be looked into before deciding implementing new education policies or systems.
So I believe that the Malaysia curriculum that has been what we call implement and has been crafted by the governments, by all the stakeholders, teachers, parents, ministry, it has its own what we call strength, that we will see the output maybe another, I don't know, 5 years. So maybe we can go the same level as Finland and Singapore in terms of our education level.
Yeah, despite the excellence of the Finland and Singapore education system, we Malaysian, I think, should have put our good faith and trust in our own Malaysian education system, because I think those who have brought up the policies, they have take considerations, feedbacks,
discussion, a lot of discussion
from all parties. So this is the best that we have now. So I think
as a taxpayer, we do support
and our children also has benefited a lot from the Malaysian education blueprint. So maybe the next coming blueprint should be much more better than the current blueprint. So with that, we would like to thank Miss Melissa, Cik Khairuddin for the very insightful discussion. It is clear that while Finland, Indonesia and Singapore each have unique educational priorities and challenge, there's potential for cross-country learning, even for Malaysia. We hope this analysis or this discussion has provided valuable insights into how different systems approach policy making in education.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.